For more than 40 years, Airbus and Boeing have ruled the skies. Every major airline, every major route, every familiar boarding gate logo points back to one of these two giants. They didn't just build aeroplanes, they built the modern aviation system itself. But now a new challenger has entered the race. China's COMAC doesn't want a niche. It wants a future where the skies are no longer a duopoly. And the question is no longer whether or not China will try, it's whether COMAC is already changing the balance of power. Stay tuned till the end to discover whether COMAC is winning the jet race or not. Because what's happening behind the scenes could quietly change who controls the skies next. To understand why COMAC's challenge matters, you first have to understand the mountain it is trying to climb. The Airbus-Boeing duopoly was not created overnight. It was built across decades of technological breakthroughs, political alliances, and economic momentum that reinforced themselves over time. Once an airline chose one ecosystem, switching became painfully expensive. The most important battlefield in this dominance has always been short-haul aviation. As we have mentioned in our previous video, the Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 didn't just become successful aircraft, they became the backbone of short and medium-haul air travel all around the world. Together they account for tens of thousands of jets flying daily, connecting cities, feeding long-haul routes, and generating the majority of airline profits. Here's a crucial detail many people miss. The narrow-body market generates more than half of global commercial aviation revenue. And that's why every manufacturer wants to be here. And why breaking in is historically near impossible. Developing a new jet program can cost multiple billions of dollars before a single aircraft enters service. And that's without even considering certification, production scaling, and after-sales support. Certification alone requires years of testing, transparent data sharing, and deep trust between regulators and manufacturers. Then there's the supply chain. Airbus and Boeing rely on vast global networks. Engines, avionics, landing gear, software, training systems are all optimized over decades. Airlines don't just buy aeroplanes, they buy reliability, financing, spare parts, and predictability. This is the scale of the challenge COMAC is facing. And trust me, it's enormous. China's ambition to build its own commercial aircraft is not a recent idea. It's a strategic goal rooted in national security, industrial independence, and long-term economic planning. This ambition has stumbled before. In the 1980s and 1990s, multiple Chinese jet programs collapsed under technical setbacks, funding gaps, and shifting political priorities. COMAC exists because those failures were studied, not forgotten. COMAC, the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, was founded in 2008 with a clear mission: end China's reliance on Western aircraft manufacturers. From the start, this wasn't framed as a commercial gamble, but as an industrial necessity. The first step was the ARJ-21, now renamed the C909. It was never meant to beat Airbus or Boeing. It was a proof of concept, a learning platform that allowed Chinese engineers to understand certification processes, airline operations, and real-world maintenance demands. For many engineers inside the program, the C909 wasn't just an aircraft, it was a classroom in the sky. Every delay, every inspection, every operational hiccup became data for what would come next. State backing played a decisive role. Massive government funding, guaranteed domestic orders, and political prioritization ensured COMAC could survive where most startups would collapse. China's domestic aviation market is projected to become the largest in the world by the early 2030s, and that changes the rules entirely. According to some industry forecasts, China will require more than 8,000 new narrow-body aircraft over the next 2 decades, a demand large enough to sustain an aircraft manufacturer even without a single foreign sale. Here's the strategic reality: China doesn't need to win globally to succeed. It only needs to win at home. If COMAC supplies Chinese airlines first and learns fast, global ambition can wait. But there's a quiet deadline embedded in that strategy. Domestic success buys time, not immunity. The C919 is where the challenge becomes serious. This is not a side project. This is the battlefield where Airbus and Boeing make most of their money. This aircraft targets the most profitable segment in aviation: single-aisle jets flying high-frequency routes. On paper, the C919 sits directly against the Airbus A320neo and Boeing 737 AX. More than 70% of all commercial flights worldwide are flown by aircraft in this exact category. Miss here, and nothing else matters. Despite the rhetoric of independence, the aircraft still relies heavily on Western technology. It uses CFM LEAP-1C engines, avionics from Honeywell, and systems sourced from a global supplier base. This was a strategic shortcut to speed certification and reduce technical risk. But it also created a quiet dependency. If access to these systems is disrupted, production doesn't just slow, it stops. Early orders came almost entirely from Chinese airlines: China Eastern, Air China, Xiamen Air, and newer state-aligned carriers like OTT Airlines. That was expected. For now, these orders provide something more important than revenue: flight hours, data, and real-world learning. Performance comparisons show the C919 roughly matching its rivals in terms of capacity, but its range is noticeably less. Its real advantage lies in price, as it is sold at discounts of 10 to 20% compared to Airbus equivalents, especially when bundled with state financing. For airlines under pressure to expand quickly, that discount is tempting, but list price is only the opening move. Here's the scale gap that rarely gets mentioned. Airbus and Boeing can each produce more than 40 narrow-body jets per month at peak output. COMAC, by comparison, is still operating in the single digits per year. Catching up isn't a sprint, it's a decade-long manufacturing marathon. Passenger reactions from early domestic flights have been largely neutral, and which in aviation is actually a success. Smooth flights, familiar cabin layouts, and uneventful operations are exactly what airlines want. No headlines, no incidents, no surprises. In aviation, that's the goal. But this is where the story begins to tighten. Because matching a jet on paper is one thing. Proving it day after day across borders, rain or shine, is something else entirely. Building an aircraft is hard. Building trust is harder. The Vietnam episode revealed this brutally. Earlier this year, Vietjet Air was reported to lease 2 COMAC C909 aircraft, a move that carried heavy political symbolism following President Xi Jinping's visit to Hanoi. For the first time, Chinese jets operated key Vietnamese domestic routes. It looked like a breakthrough. Then, just months later, the lease quietly ended. Operating costs were higher than expected. Wet lease arrangements inflated crew and maintenance expenses. Vietnamese aviation regulations made long-term operation legally complex. And ultimately, Vietjet decided not to pursue Chinese aircraft after all. This wasn't just a failed deal. It was a warning. Certification remains COMAC's largest obstacle. The C919 holds approval only from China's Aviation Authority. Without FAA or EASA certification, aircraft are effectively locked out of high-value global markets, limiting insurance, financing, and resale options. And gaining such certification is likely to take many years, even decades. Then there's maintenance. Aircraft need service checks performing every couple of days and wearing parts replacing. Airbus and Boeing can replace parts anywhere on Earth within hours. COMAC cannot. Outside China, certified maintenance facilities are rare, creating downtime risks airlines simply can't accept. Financing compounds the issue. Leasing companies view COMAC aircraft as high-risk assets with uncertain resale value. Higher interest rates or outright rejection make deals unattractive regardless of purchase price. And finally, there is trust. Millions of flight hours matter. One technical incident can echo globally. It takes years to build a good reputation, but one single incident can bring it crashing down again instantly. Aviation is not just about getting people from one place to another. It's about power, economic power, technological power, and long-term influence. China wants technological independence, and aircraft manufacturing sits at the very top of that list. If a country can build its own planes, it controls its own skies, its own supply chains, and a huge slice of global trade. But this ambition doesn't exist in a vacuum. US-China tensions complicate everything, from certification and data sharing to supplier relationships. Western regulators scrutinize Chinese aircraft programs far more aggressively, often pointing to concerns about transparency, safety data access, and supply chain control. In simple terms, regulators aren't just asking, is this aircraft safe? They're asking, can we fully trust the system behind it? In response, China has looked beyond the West, focusing instead on Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. But here's the reality check. Politics can open doors, but it can't force airlines to walk through them. Vietnam proved that. Despite strong political signals, the aircraft still had to make economic sense. And when operating costs, legal hurdles, and support risks appeared, diplomacy stepped aside and business took over. This is why COMAC's appearance at the 2025 Dubai Air Show matters so much. It's symbolic, strategic, and risky. Middle Eastern airlines are not short on cash, but they are also some of the most demanding customers in aviation. They don't buy aircraft for loyalty. They buy them for profitability, performance, reliability, and global support. If COMAC can impress here, perception may begin to shift. Not with speeches, not with promises, but with flying displays, hard data, and quiet confidence. Dubai could become COMAC's proving ground, not just for its aircraft, but for its credibility. Because in global aviation, trust isn't declared, it's earned, one flight at a time. There are three possible futures. COMAC dominates China and parts of Asia but remains peripheral globally. The C919 matures, the C929 widebody enters service, and COMAC earns global certification. Scaling accelerates, supply chains localize, and the Airbus Boeing duopoly finally fractures. The answer won't arrive this decade, but it may decide not just who builds tomorrow's aircraft, but who leads the next century of global manufacturing. And for the first time in 40 years, the skies are no longer guaranteed to belong to just two names. That's it for this video, but we want to know what you think. Is COMAC winning the future jet race? Let us know in the comments below if you think they can overcome the challenges. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel for more aviation content.